Nearly 2 decades after the Passion of the Christ shocked the world with its graphic, emotional depiction of Jesus' crucifixion, director Mel Gibson has returned to the biblical epic that defined his career. But this time, the controversy isn't about the violence or theology. It's about casting. Today, on Life of Celebrities, we're diving deep into the controversy shaking Hollywood and the Catholic world. Mel Gibson's bold casting, the political firestorm it ignited, and what this means for one of the most anticipated and debated films of the decade. Back in 2004, Mel Gibson's The Passion of the Christ wasn't just a movie. It was a phenomenon. The film grossed over $600 million worldwide, making it the most successful independent film in history at that time. Its brutal realism, filmed in Aramaic and Latin, shocked audiences, but also moved millions to tears. Jim Caviezel became synonymous with Jesus Christ. Monica Bellucci, as Mary Magdalene, brought both grace and sorrow to the screen. And Gibson, once known for action films like Braveheart and Lethal Weapon, reinvented himself as a filmmaker of biblical epics. But the movie also divided critics. Many accused it of anti-Semitic undertones. Others praised it as the most faithful representation of Christ's suffering ever filmed. And through it all, one thing was clear: Gibson's work could not be ignored. It was art that stirred emotions and forced conversations. Now, 2 decades later, Gibson was ready to tell the rest of the story, the resurrection. For years, rumors swirled about a sequel. Gibson confirmed as early as 2016 that he was working with screenwriter Randall Wallace, the same writer behind Braveheart, to craft a follow-up that would depict Jesus' resurrection and the aftermath. In 2025, after countless delays and rewrites, production finally began. The project was titled The Resurrection of the Christ, Part 1, signaling Gibson's intent to create not just a sequel, but a 2-part saga exploring the divine and the human, faith and doubt, betrayal and redemption. Casting news quickly followed. Jaakko Otonen, a Finnish actor, was announced as the new Jesus of Nazareth. Mariella Garriga, a Cuban-Italian actress, would take on the role of Mary Magdalene. And Kasia Smutniak, the Polish-Italian star known for films like Perfect Strangers and Domestique, would portray Mary, the mother of Jesus. At first, it seemed like a daring but inspired casting choice. Smutniak had the emotional depth and gravitas to portray such an iconic figure. But within days, the decision turned explosive. Before the controversy, Kasia Smutniak was widely respected across Europe for her artistry. Born in Poland in 1979, she began her career as a model before moving into acting. She gained fame in Italy, starring in a string of successful dramas and comedies, and became one of the most sought-after actresses in European cinema. But off-screen, Smutniak was just as vocal, not about glamour, but about human rights. In her home country of Poland, where abortion laws are among the most restrictive in Europe, Smutniak became an outspoken supporter of Strajk Kobiet, the women's strike movement that protests against the near-total ban on abortion. She used her platform on social media to amplify women's voices, share stories of victims of the law, and call for political change. For many, she became a symbol of courage, a woman using her fame for freedom. But for Poland's conservative ruling factions and its powerful Catholic base, her activism made her a target. So when news broke that this same actress would be portraying the Virgin Mary, the holiest mother figure in Christianity, the backlash was immediate. In October 2025, Polish media erupted. Headlines accused Gibson of disrespecting Christian values. Right-wing commentators flooded television panels, arguing that casting Smutniak, a vocal supporter of abortion rights, as Mary was an insult to the faith. Members of Poland's Nationalist Law and Justice Party, PiS, reportedly wrote letters directly to Gibson's production company, Icon Productions, demanding the role be recast. Religious activists organized online petitions, some gathering tens of thousands of signatures. Social media filled with angry posts labeling Smutniak as anti-Christian and unworthy to play the Mother of Christ. But others, particularly younger Poles and progressive Catholics, rushed to defend her. They argued that art should transcend politics and that portraying Mary didn't require sainthood, only empathy and talent. One viral comment read, "Mary represented compassion and courage. Kasia stands for the same, for women, for choice, for humanity. She deserves this role." Still, the backlash didn't stop. For Mel Gibson, the man once accused of religious extremism himself, the irony was hard to ignore. Mel Gibson, now 69, has never been a stranger to controversy. His faith, his politics, and his personal scandals have long shadowed his career. Yet, in this case, Gibson's casting choice appeared unusually progressive. Despite being a devout Catholic, he selected an actress whose beliefs openly conflicted with conservative teachings of the church. Was it deliberate? A message? Or simply artistic freedom? As the outrage grew, Gibson's team remained silent. No official comment came from Icon Productions. His co-writer Randall Wallace also declined interviews. But industry insiders whispered that Gibson had handpicked Smutniak himself after seeing her performance in Il Colibri, admiring her intensity and her ability to portray sorrow without words. To Gibson, perhaps the choice was simple. She was the best person for the role. But for the film's critics, that explanation wasn't enough. In their eyes, casting an abortion rights activist as Mary was sacrilege. The controversy reached fever pitch in Poland's deeply Catholic society. Television pundits debated Smutniak's morality, priests preached against Hollywood blasphemy, and political commentators warned that the film would mock sacred history. Meanwhile, feminist groups applauded Gibson's courage. They saw the backlash as proof that the fight for women's rights was still alive and that art could challenge centuries of religious patriarchy. Smutniak herself remained calm and silent. No statements, no tweets, no interviews. But her silence only fueled more speculation. Was she ignoring the outrage? Or standing strong against it? Her agent, when reached by reporters, claimed he wasn't aware of any protests. But by then, the story had become international, with outlets like Variety, The Hollywood Reporter, and People all covering the uproar. Despite the controversy, production on the resurrection of the Christ continued as planned. Filming began in the summer of 2025 across locations in Italy and Israel. Gibson, known for his intense directing style, reportedly worked tirelessly to capture the emotional essence of Resurrection, a story of hope and transcendence. Insiders described the film as a meditation on belief, with an emphasis on what happened between the crucifixion and the resurrection, exploring the despair of the disciples and the faith of Mary. In that light, Smutniak's portrayal gained new significance. She was playing a mother witnessing her son's death and holding faith when the world fell apart. Art imitating life? Perhaps. As filming wrapped, reports suggested that the film would be split into two parts, with the first focusing on the 3 days after the crucifixion and the second on the early spread of Christianity. Gibson's gamble was enormous, artistically and financially. But for him, the real risk might not be the box office, but the backlash. The debate surrounding the resurrection of the Christ raises a timeless question. Can an artist's personal beliefs coexist with the sacred roles they play? In an age where faith, politics, and identity collide louder than ever, Gibson's film, whether intentional or not, has become a symbol of that struggle. Kasia Smutniak's story, meanwhile, has evolved beyond the controversy. To some, she's a villain, a blasphemous figure embodying modern rebellion. To others, she's a hero, proof that even within sacred art, there's room for human truth. The final judgment will come not from politicians or critics, but from audiences. Because when the resurrection of the Christ finally hits theaters, the world will see whether Gibson's vision unites or divides once again. In the end, art reflects the battles of our time. Faith versus freedom, tradition versus progress, silence versus speech. Mel Gibson's latest film hasn't even been released, and already, it's testing the boundaries of belief. Maybe that's exactly what great art is meant to do. This has been Life of Celebrities. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful true stories behind Hollywood's most controversial moments. Because behind every headline, there's a story that changes everything.